Do you want to get this?
Yeah, I can start it anytime you want. You just say
Hey
three,
Fred,
two.
how you doing? This is John. I was up late last night servicing your machine, so I'm still a little foggy. I'm off the coffee and having withdrawals. Anyway, this is your machine, Fred, and I'm proud to say that it's working flawlessly. And I had a good effect last night of producing a very strong invisible exclusion zone, which you'll be able to see. It's a result of about 3 hours of running. And what happened was in the container here, I used tap water. And the TDS in there, relatively city water, pushed the TDS and pesticides and pharmaceuticals and whatever nasty stuff to the top. And you can see the ring up here. If I use distilled water, that won't really form much more than a complementary line. But with dirty water, it works. It's proof of Gerald Pollack's claim. Gerald has been able to make this line between here and here more than the width of a human hair. So when he saw what we had accomplished here, he his first thing was he wanted to come to Maui to see it, and the story continues. Anyway, now on your machine here, I wanted to have it be cold and show it to you from startup. The machine has the controls for the gas and plasma here, and it has controls for the amount of time that you're going to run it. And that's basically your adjustments that you're going to deal with. The knob over here doesn't adjust the height of this, but just dampens it. Sometimes it starts bouncing because the gas comes out in a pulsation from the generator and sometimes bounces. The indicator light right here tells us when the system has reached the level where it produces a more than sufficient gas to meet the requirements of breathing. And this is a big thing because most machines don't come close. It also serves like an idiot light in your car in that if there's a problem with the machine, a problem with the solution strength in here, too weak, too strong, problems with electronics, it spits out trouble codes, completely computerized. Now, it makes it pretty much plug and play. We're going to turn it on. We're going to watch the machine become active, and as the gas is produced, it comes up here in bubbles, which will amplify the level of this water probably up to about here. It'll exit the hose on the top with a one-way check valve and go to this tank here. I usually have this tank filled with water up to about this level. I have it to right here so that you can see the bubbles coming up. On this tank over here, the gas comes from here to over here. Over here, the plasma can be released into this tank, or it can continue on its journey out this hose. And that depends on where you set this valve. This valve system was set up to have a plasma valve and a gas valve, but something happened. If both of these were closed in this position, the system would run and it couldn't get the gas out and it would leak. Something would pop. So I'm going to fasten this position here forward. You won't be able to move it. And what the controls will work as, in this position here, like it says, pointed, you'll be plasma. In this position, you'll be gas. And you can control it in the middle to have a mix of the two. How will you be able to tell? Fine bubbles or large bubbles. We'll go much more into that. But that's going to be your controls. One valve, not both. That way ensures that no matter what position you leave it in, it always has a way to vent out. If you trust yourself and want to take that off and will always keep one valve open, you're welcome to it. Now the gas exits here where it says out. On an in position right here is where you can plug in to make your airflow meter work. I've got the hose ran around, and after we turn it on, I'll plug it in here and we'll read the output on our meter. Now keep in mind that there's no electrolyzer in the world that doesn't work better when it gets warmed up. But when they're cold, they don't do much of anything. Operating temperature is from 95 to about 110. This one is set at 95 degrees. The temperature is programmed normally by a hidden component in back here. I'm giving you the more expensive version with the temperature controller back here simply so that you can change the temperature of the range it's at for some special things that you might want to do in medicine, which I know you will. And otherwise, don't need to worry about it. And also, it's got a good display that does it in Fahrenheit. The other ones are all Celsius. And anyway, so the cooling fans on both sides right here cool the unit, and there's two of them, and the air exits out here. That's why we have a vent here and out the bottom. There's also a third fan in this box right here that blows out, and they're all thermostatically controlled. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it on. I take a temperature reading right here. We're 73 degrees. That's room temperature here. If I was in Alaska and it was 60 degrees, I would probably change the setting of this temperature controller to make it run a little hotter. All right, pretty simple. We've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 60. We'll run it up here. Give us 60 minutes. Takes a second for the computer to activate. As the computer is activated, it immediately gives me a solid blue light, telling me that it has immediately reached production levels. Unbelievable. I've never seen it by any machine, and neither has anybody else. To have a machine go from ambient temperature straight to production like this is unheard of. Look at the amount of gas coming out in this container over here. And that's at startup, and you haven't seen nothing. So, if we turn this on and this light was blinking, it's telling us you're putting out hydrogen and you can bubble water, but it hasn't reached that real critical limit for breathing. And it usually takes in Hawaii no more than 30 seconds. I'm thinking the colder climates it might be a minute or more. I'm not sure. But if the light doesn't stay on steady, blue, you got a problem, and it'll blink super fast or super slow. But I've never had a failure, so I don't anticipate any problems. Now, this has the very strong solution in here. And even though it's gone through some cleaning, you see a little bit of foam and residue here, right here. This scummy thing right here. Well, after it's ran for a day or so, a couple days, you can take a Q-tip down there and wipe that off, and then from then on it's clean. After running it for a few times, this will actually dissipate and you won't see anything but clear fluid. Compared to most electrolyzers, this is super clean. Now, when we go into putting fluid in the container right here, there's this funnel, and it has a hose on there with some Teflon tape wrapped around to make it seal. And by unplugging the blue plug and sticking it in the receptacle here, we can add water to it. These connectors feature a locking system that has to be compressed with an outside ring. You can push them in without compressing, but you can't get them out without pulling in. I'm going to make a tool that, with people with arthritis, can compress these easier, because some old ladies have had a problem. A spool of thread with a larger hole drilled in it. Now, over here, our pyrometer tells us we're at 72 degrees. What would be considered operating temperature is 95 degrees. And at 95 degrees, it's putting out more than sufficient hydrogen, and that's when the fans will cycle on and off and stuff. And it'll reach those temperatures when it's allowed to run for an hour or more. This thing ran about 7 hours last night, and before that, probably 30 hours. It's a very complex machine, has a lot of fittings that could leak. If you do see a leak around here, anywhere, let me know. It can happen. Hydrogen is a sneaky little thing to control. The exact details of a lot of it will all be written down in the back of it, where the lights are right here. If you read Gerald Pollack's book, you understand that white light is the strongest and has the biggest effect on the exclusion zone. It works the same way here. And I have a piece of blue tint in here that gives me the tinting that makes this blue, but it can be easily removed and any color put in there, as you see right there. With the white light, you're getting a stronger exclusion zone effect. And you can work on that and help me figure out how we can sell this to the water companies of the world, because they certainly need this technology. And Jerry would be glad to work with us. But this side doesn't need to have a clear light, but this one does. But you'll have your blue emblem to put in. Now, I'm going to plug this in. And we can see that the output on the flow meter here is bouncing. So we dampen it down by a little bit. I've got it marked right here where it should be, but that's on the highest amount that you'd want somebody to breathe. So if you look at the highs and the lows, it's very close to reaching that level. To do the filling process and the draining process, I have to have the machine shut off, and I'll show you how to put fluid into it as well as how to drain the tanks. But we'll get reset up for that. One of the things I'm going to send you are, which you can get probably better than me, and I'll send you a new one of these in a wrapper. It's a nose type catheter, a roll of clear tubing, the special medicine that goes in the machine, and a nose piece that I haven't worked with a lot, but I'm sure it would work fine. as well as something I'm working on right here, which is a nebulizer treatment inhaler. But by putting water in here and plugging it in the bottom, it's a perfect way to breathe the plasma. And we'll get that hooked up on the second video that we'll do, as well as an assortment of stones that you might find easier to get into some bottles, and some extra fittings for if some of these wear out or stuff. When you put the hose in right here, it sure makes it a lot easier for the tip if you put a little olive oil, butter, or something like that as a lubricant. You don't have to, but it makes it easier to go in. But plug in the machine, turn it on, decide if you're going to breathe it in plasma or gas. We'll talk about the advantages on that on some stuff I'll send you. So we're at 77 degrees. You saw the output. We'll keep it running. We'll come back in an hour or less when it's warmed up more, and we'll pick up the video. All right, Fred, thanks for watching so far. Well, Fred, we're back. We're looking at the pyrometer that I talked about. It's in the back of your view mirror machine. And it's top of the line pyrometer. I really like it. I've had it for 5 years and never had a failure. It has a temperature probe that where you place it, you pick up your temperature. It varies widely, the temperature of the electrolyzer. Whether you're measuring it on the clear tube or on the base, I've got it coming up about halfway in the back with a little piece of putty stuck holding the sensor, which you might see. Now, we're at 95 degrees, and as soon as the temperature is brought down, I think to 93, the fans stop, which they just did now, and 94. And then when it gets up to 96, the fans come on. I need to reset these, I believe, for you up to the 100-degree mark. This will allow the increased production of plasma, and I think that's something in your case I would like you to have the ability to do, because you won't be stupid with it. Now, at 95, it certainly makes sufficient plasma, but it will make more. And it's not hard to change the programming of it, and I'll send all the instructions with you. But let's look at it now. Fred, we've got her up to operating temperatures. Oh my goodness. You just keep clicking this thing, and then it'll go to off and then start over. So right now, in the position that we're at is the plasma position. And over here, the bubbles are large, and as they come up, encased in that bubble is a small charge of the plasma. As it rises to the top right here, it'll make this area cloudy because of the steam cloud-like effect that it has. Coming over here to this tank right here, because it's set at the plasma position, the bubbles are also large, and it's releasing a charge of plasma. As these bubbles rise to the top, poof, you'll see a white cloud of plasma come out. You've seen it in the videos. Bringing the temperature up will make it a little more pronounced to see, and it kind of depends upon the background and the light and stuff, but it is happening. Now, we'll looking at this hose right here, and you say, well, geez, there's nothing happening, but a lot of plasma is coming out of it. Plasma is attracted to light, magnets, electricity, and if we go over here, we can see that it's coming out, and it comes out in pulsations. It's easily blown away by fans and things like this, and it's quite the unique stage of matter. At 100 degrees, it would probably be double this level. Okay, a little attachment that I like for breathing the plasma, this nebulizer that I modified by making the jets a little bigger on the thing here. Sometimes that thing gets stuck. Oh, gotta have that right in the middle. I probably have a little bit too much water in it. Now, you can fine tune this thing. But anyway, this works fine. If you look up on the deal here, you can see in the front nose piece, the majority of the plasma is coming out here. By going through this water treatment right here, we do a final cleaning of anything bad and tone down the plasma a little bit. No rule book on it, but this makes me feel safer about it, and it sure has a lot of people feeling much better with it, particularly with the VOG that's here in Maui. Okay. Now we'll hook up to the water bottle. We have headed in the light, and as I said before, whatever side there's light, there's all kinds of bubbles sticking to this here, but wherever the opposite the light, it's clear. This is a connector so that if you wanted to change the stone, remove this cap pops off, and then you could release the stone from the device, and you could put out plasma into here without it being ran through the water. These are pushed in here and sealed well. It's a strange thread, and I've got the Chinese sending me a plastic fastener that I can tighten on here. So in the meantime, don't turn these too much. They're supposed to turn, but I had problems with the ones in black. Didn't work as good as the ones in blue, but these aren't available anymore. But I charge the water, put the lid on it right here, and then with two plugs, I stick it in here. I put this in the refrigerator, and then I've got cold water to drink, and you can pour it out with this. And this particular container holds in the hydrogen as well as anything made of plastic that I've found. We'll plug that in there to the catheter. Oh, I guess I better be smart and hook up the diffuser. These diffusers are made for me by Bubble-Matic, and they're expensive, but they sure work good. Oh, plug, don't do that, plug in that side.
You prefer to plug in one side or the other, or doesn't matter?
Yeah, it's only one side has the stone coming down. The other side is
I see. Got
for it venting out.
Okay.
You could now take your breathing instrument and plug into this and breathe the best gas in the world. This is pharmaceutical brand. This is my size. This will push into that with a little effort, but it'll push in. So I plug into here, and now I treat my water, and it's like standing under a waterfall, breathing the best smelling thing that you've ever seen. Navy SEALs will tell you that. They're breathing almost pure hydrogen. All right. Now, if you were going to breathe it, I prefer that you use this, and if you don't want to use that, you make sure that this is turned in to the gas position. I don't want you breathing plasma, I tell the public. You, I say, breathe it. At any time you ever smell anything, something's dirty, needs to be changed, because it's otherwise odorless, colorless, and only a couple times because the fluid was 6 months old in these tanks, they didn't change them. This tank will get dirty. This tank seldom gets dirty. And dirty by I mean you'll smell the smell there, and it'll sometimes feel slippery. It's what they make soap out of. And the other video will show how to tip it over and change the fluid. But I wanted to show you what the machine looks like when it's hit operating temperatures, the amount of gas it's putting out, how you can bubble your water, breathe at the same time. The machine puts out enough gas if I tweaked it for special customers, and you could be one, where I could wide this out and you could actually breathe with 2 people, so your wife and you could breathe at the same time. You can increase the line as long as you want and sleep with it. I put the machine by my bed and sleep all night hooked up to it. There's been a lot of people that were at death's door and were told to breathe it 24 hours a day, and they're completely well now. So I think that there'll be questions and questions, but then all of a sudden you'll realize it's pretty simple. You add water into here it was probably up to here, and I ran it probably 8 hours yesterday, and it went down to about here. So, and when you add water in here, it's a very small amount. It's easy to overfill. Can't think of much more except this amazing thing that's happening. Boy, what a trip. Okay, we got a vessel that cleans water at a molecular level with an exclusion zone, special feature. Next, we have a changing of the bubbles with the light, which ties into Jerry's exclusion zone. My last comment with Jerry was, he asked, John, do you think it really is an exclusion zone? It's too good to be true. Well, the hydrogen is like an amplifier. It makes everything bigger, badder, booster. It's a booster. What Jason and I were doing was moving the hands around it. And that was a great question you asked. What about another person? Well, the fans are on right now and you can't hear it much, but I get a big effect on it. Jason didn't get quite as much, but he was working at it.
I think you can hear it.
Anyway, right now with the fans and us talking, but as you'll see, it's quite loud. When it happens, I have actually seen almost like flashes of light changing with the bubbles, and they jerk in a violent way. I've seen the sound resonate in a harmonics that transferred into the big machine at nighttime when I disconnected the fans. I wondered if it was pulsation from a sound level with my hands being around, but no, it's a magnetic thing. I've been working with 2 magnets placed right here, and have them pull the oxygen to one side and the hydrogen to another. So we know that, they're highly charged. And when the bubbles come out down here, you'll see a lot of them don't even go to the top. They stay low. There isn't enough force to want to pull them up. Except when you put your hands around it, they really, really come out. And these are the kind of things that really don't show up on a camera as much. But be able to play with it. I'd sure like to get Jerry over here and see this, and have him do some speaking at the MAC, and he said he'd give us some money for our project. Now over here it's getting to look a little foggier and stuff and not clear because there's plasma in here, and it's very clear in here because the plasma Uh, it doesn't go any farther than when it's the plasma continues traveling until it hits its first diffuser, and there it stops. So the plasma stopped here, and what's going in here now is a gas, not a plasma. If I change this knob to put it forward, the bubbles go large, and now we are putting in plasma. Now look over here, we can see bubbles popping up right here. And that means I'm going to have to find some at the hardware store that will fit those threads. It's a strange Chinese thread that I've got every tap and die there. Anyway, it's the line coming out that goes to the catheter here, but by pushing it in a little farther, the leak stopped. But I'll work on that today. Anyway, I'm sure that you're going to have a lot of fun with this machine, and you'll see the longer it runs, the cleaner it's getting right here. And next time I'll remove this plug right here and show you how, with a short piece of coat hanger and some paper towel taped on it, you can wipe this one layer of scum off, and then it won't come back, and it'll always be clear. When you shut the machine off and it cools down, this water level will be totally crystal clear and stuff. I'm being oversensitive about this right here. Shit, most of them got horrible stuff in there.
You
That's
mean
right.
other kinds of
Machines.
Yeah.
This is nothing. This is tiny, minute foam. Biggest problem with electrolyzers is foaming up. Usually they foam right out of the thing here. Well, I guess that's it for now. We'll show you the refilling procedure and such, and work on the things that we talked about. I found a box that fits it just right. I was very lucky. It was an Apple box, and so we'll get it off to you, but a few more tweaks, but it's ready. All right, have a good day, Fred, and we'll talk to you soon.